Welcome back, everyone, to Merge Conflict, your weekly developer podcast about all things in the world of technology, development, .NET, and so much more. And Frank, little PSA going on here before we get into today's topic, which is driven by y'all. His first little PSA. It's a public service announcement. I got two of them. Ready?
I love it. I'm a little bit worried though. I think I was 12 years old since I've heard a proper PSA. So let's see how you do.
Don't forget to subscribe, like wherever you're listening to this podcast. You get up to date over here. We also have a YouTube. You can go and check that out. The real PSA is that tomorrow is the launch of .NET 9 and .NET Conf live streaming. I am part of the keynote along with like 12 other amazing individuals and then like 100 other amazing people from Microsoft and the .NET community that are going to be talking on a wide range over 4 days live on the .NET YouTube and Visual Studio Twitch. Check it out, .NETconf.net. Just search for .NET Conf. You will find it. I am super stoked, Frank, for it. I'm real excited.
James, I have to tell you, I sometimes forget that we live in the future. And so I got really excited there for a second. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's going to be a few more days for me, but I'll be patient. I was actually just looking at the calendar because for some reason I thought I'm not good at time, everyone. So everyone, we're all looking forward to .NET Conf, mostly the .NET 9 release, because guess what? They're retiring .NET 6. Got to get off that stuff. So get on to that .NET 9 goodness. I'm sure we're just going to be talking about that all next week. I'm definitely going to tune in for the keynote. I got a little worried you were calling the keynote not a keynote the last time we were just chatting. Good to know
it's
you're
a keynote.
In the keynote. It's a keynote,
baby. It's a keynote. It's like the keynote. Oh, you do not want to miss it. 8 a.m. It's early. It's an early keynote.
Early. Yeah.
It'll be on demand. Don't worry.
Pre-recorded, or do you got to wake up early, sir?
I'll be waking up early. Okay. So you'll see. You'll see. Oh, you'll see.
Oh, don't give away any of the magic.
There's, I don't want to talk about it until it happens, but go watch. It's going to be good. Then you're going to have your classic, all the deep dives into ASP.NET, into Blazor, and what's new in Maui, the runtime, all the performance stuff, all the goodies and bits over the next several days, and tons of community content. So much goodness. Lots of some AI stuff, some Steve Sanderson in person. Maybe the first time I'll get to meet Steve in person. Which is kind of wild. So,
okay.
Have I?
It's just been a while.
Maybe it's been a while. I feel like, or we just haven't.
I believe I got to shake his hand once at a party, and I believe he. I don't even know if I got to say my name, but
I bet I saw him like a build or Ignite or something. Yeah, it'll be good. So I'm excited. So that'd be super good, and so many lovely people. I'm really excited about it. But today's topic is: did we just become Mac Mini twins?
Did you just copy me? No. We since we're going to talk about all .NET all next week, next week from your perspective, we might as well just talk about Apple stuff because I spent a stupid amount of money, and then James, I believe you spent a stupid amount of money also.
I also did. So I'm super excited.
Dumb twins, the stupid twins. I believe that's what we should be called. But we're getting 5 inches of stupid goodness.
5 by 5 by 2. I'm super stoked for it. So also today we're recording on the 7th. The Mac Mini review embargo is done. So all the reviews landed. I watched 4 or 5 of them, MKBHD. I watched a lot of should you get the M4 Pro versus this versus that, blah, blah, blah. So very fascinating about it because I'll say this much, I want to get into what we bought. And then there's tons of questions because I posted on LinkedIn, several questions and my configuration. Ours are very, very similar. But some big changes, obviously, we talked about last week, which is the M4. The base model, which MKBHD will remind, is like a steal because it's still $599, but you get 16 gigs of RAM with the normal M4 Pro. The fascinating part is if you update to with the normal M4, if you upgrade to the M4 Pro, it doubles in price, which means you could actually get 2 machines for the price of 1. In fact, if you just configure, we could have gotten 4. We could have gotten 4 machines, 5 machines.
Now that you say that. I,
5
who
machines.
wants to manage the icons and the setup? I'm already dreading. I switched computers 1 year ago, and I'm
Yeah.
still like breaking in this
Yeah.
computer. So while I'm excited we bought new computers, it takes me forever to get a computer all set up. So who wants to manage
Yeah.
four?
I know. Okay.
But
So let's
that
get
is a hilarious argument.
into the why. You and I both have different reasons for it. Why did you decide to buy this Mac Mini? Not about the specs. Don't talk about the specs yet. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
But why did you decide this is my new desktop computer?
Well, I think I said it in the last episode,
And everyone
without
doesn't
getting into
listen to every
specs.
episode,
I
Frank.
know. So I'm going to repeat it. It's
Okay,
simply
good.
that this is the sweet spot of machines. Um, the Mac Pro, it's a bit riche, a little expensive. The iMac, they seem to refuse to make an iMac Pro. Uh, and I'm not looking for a laptop. I do have a very nice laptop. We rave, you and I, about our M1 laptops. We'll continue to do so. We should probably have a bell for it at this point. So I have a laptop I'm very happy with. I wanted a desktop computer. And this, the Mac Mini, I used to be a Mac Mini user. They got weird for a while, so I switched over to the iMac. Uh, this machine's just a nice sweet spot. You can get a pretty specced out machine for an expensive Apple price, but not as much as a Mac Pro. We'll just put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Mac Studios also, you can really spec out with everything. But
Yeah.
if you need those machines, and that's not us necessarily.
Well, in fact, I already had two Mac Studios sitting in my cart bag. Apple calls them bags.
Bags in the
So I
bag.
added the Mini to my bag, and it was fun to just side by side compare them because spec'd to where I wanted them spec'd, they were actually roughly the same price, but I did splurge on a hard drive. But they were M2s. That's like two less. I don't know what these M numbers are worth, but I guess maybe a thousand per M, 500 bucks per M. I don't know, but
The
it just seemed like I was surprised actually that the studio didn't get a refresh. So maybe next year the studio gets a refresh. Anyway,
Yeah.
the Mini was a nice sweet spot.
Yeah, I feel like they'll probably upgrade like the Pro devices, which would be like the Mac Pro, and then the Studio, I think, will come along with it as well. Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing, funnily enough. I literally was like, oh yeah, what happens if I go to the studio and like do the same specs? And it was relatively similarly priced. That being said, like I believe like the specs and the things, like they're pretty comparable, the Max and the Ultra, to the Pro spec'd out chips, which we'll talk about the chips that we got. But also, they're very different form factors, and that is what sold me over on it in general. So like for me, I am replacing a desktop. This will be my first ever Mac desktop.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
a brave moment. Brave? Why'd I choose that word? I brave because change is scary. That's why I said
Yeah.
brave. So
And
this is cool, but we'll dive into that.
it's going to replace at some point, probably not immediately, but it will replace it. I've only ever built custom desktop towers. When I went off to college, I had a Dell machine that like I just got going to college. And then after that, I built 3 different computers. The first one was like learning journey. The second one was like really specced out. They last a long time, right? You put like really
Yeah,
good, you
I
put
love building
good,
computers.
huge, you build really beefy machines, right? And then when my last one died, my buddy Jesse was upgrading his machine. So he handed me his custom built one. I upgraded it again. That's what I have now in it. But it is a older machine. Um, it's a 6 series Intel, so 6700. I think they're on like 20 series or
Oh, I
whatever.
can't keep up with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, in the hundreds
Yeah.
categorization, I can't
So
keep up. Yeah.
my machine runs fine. It is specced out. It's got a 980 NVIDIA GPU, which is like really good still for like my use cases. It runs Windows 11 unofficially
Mhm.
in there. And I don't use it all that much for too many things like developing and this podcast and videos. But the thing that won me over was the form factor 100%. That is almost 100%
Really?
why I'm upgrading. Besides that, I did want a new machine at some point. And as listeners may know, I wanted that Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite little box, but they canceled. They stopped making them. They only made a few batches, and they're not selling them. The dev kits, and that was going to be my replacement, all in on ARM, all this stuff, because it was a nice small thing. Because remember,
Interesting.
I have a Project Volterra as my work machine, the Windows Dev Kit. And I have my Surface laptop. So I have 2 Windows machines. I'll now have 2 Mac machines. I'll have 4 machines, 1 desktop, 1 laptop, one
Crazy.
desktop, 1 laptop, there. But it really is this form factor. I'm really excited to cleanse my desk office space of all of the cables and all of the things and simplify my setup so much. And that really had me excited about it. So it's really the form factor and the fact that it was like time. It felt like it was a good time. And I couldn't find some alternatives, which we'll talk about in here, because as you know, I am a Windows person. I don't like Mac
Yeah.
OS that much,
So
but
I'm
this hardware is
nervous.
so good. The hardware is so good. It's too good. It's too good, Frank. It's too good.
Oh well, sad news. I'm sorry. I didn't know they canceled that machine on you. Um,
I looked it up right before I bought the Mac Mini. I was like, but can I just wait? And then it was like, they just sent out their last units like a few weeks ago. So yeah.
okay. Um, it's still a little bit crazy to me because, well, I love building computers too, but I say I reserve that for Linux machines now for my little GPUs and all that kind of stuff. But building Windows machines is fun.
It was fun.
Everyone should do it. Everyone should have one. So this is very much the opposite of that. So it's kind of crazy that you're switching from the kind of dream, wonderful PC world into the crazy condensed Mac
Well,
world where
you
where's the
can't.
power supply even on this
I
thing?
haven't. That's a great because it doesn't come. It's just a cord I saw in the
It's a
reviews.
cord.
So
It's a
it's just a
cord.
cord. So it's built in. So here's the thing, and MKBHD said this in his review, was that you can't build this computer. You are either going to build one this small and it's going to be not as powerful, or you're going to build one as powerful but it's not going to be this small. Like you are not. You can't. You can't do it. You can't do it. It's. I don't know
I'm
how they
worried
did
I'm
it.
gonna lose it on the desk. I think I'm gonna have to build a box around it. I'm gonna build it like a nice little PC case, and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna put it in the PC case, something like that. Have some fans blowing under it.
Yeah. It's got fans built in. There's a fan. There's
I don't
a
know.
fan.
We'll see. We'll see.
MKBHD says there's a
Well,
fan. All right. So let's talk about the configuration. Then I want to get into questions that I got on LinkedIn about it. So, what configuration did we buy, Frank? We only differ in
can
one
I
area.
preface a little bit by saying because I did splurge a little bit, but I
Mm-hmm.
splurged because I have reasons. I've been doing a lot of Vision Pro, another very expensive device from Apple,
Mm.
development lately. And I don't know what's happened with the latest Xcode simulators and what, but they use all my GPU. You bring up the smallest little preview of anything because Swift UI's got its nice little previews and everything. You bring up that preview, and all of a sudden my mouse cursor doesn't even move, and so it's pretty amazing. Um, and I should say the M series is pretty much required in modern Apple development. You can still cross compile, so things are fine, but we all have to be in the M world. So I did have an actual, I would say, business need to
Yeah,
upgrade. A
and I'll say,
justified need.
and let me say the same, okay? Because we purchased this machine for specific reasons, like you're saying. One, this is a
Hmm.
software development machine. We are
Yeah.
developing apps and software at scale. You're doing a lot of AI and processing and vision stuff. I have my other use cases, which I'll talk about as well, which will require some additional beefiness to it because I know from
Hmm.
experience. I'm also interested in gaming aspects of this machine as well, specifically like Xbox stuff that
I
I'm
should get some
interested in.
games.
But this machine, when I buy a machine to last a long time.
Mhm.
I have been running the same desktop for like 8 years. You know what I mean? And before that,
Mm-hmm.
8 years. I expect machines. This is one area in and my laptops as well. Like before that, like I expect my laptops to run for a long time. I am not going to get a new MacBook Air until it's probably like M8 or M9 or something like that until like I see it. But I upgraded it accordingly when I got it, right? And I buy hardware, desktop computers, build desktop computers to be a device that lasts a very, very long time, right? And what that often means, not always, but often, is that there is upgrade prices associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why neither of us bought the base unit, which I believe is a very, very capable machine because M4 and we have M1s, you know what I mean? But I think going through the other aspect that I'll say is like, I expect my laptop to do one type of thing and I expect my desktop to do another type of thing. I've always thought that way is my
Absolutely.
desktop
Yeah.
is the engine that is running, that is there. And it is the all the horsepower. And that is the thing that I'm doing the complex, advanced, bigger things on. It's not what I expect out of my laptops always, right? So that's a good preface there too, because it may be like, why did you buy that? Right. Well, here's why. What did we buy,
Yeah, and
Frank?
as app developers, it's good to keep a slower machine around too,
Yeah.
just to make sure everything's working over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did we buy? We bought some M4 Pros because I did it for the RAM upgrade. I wanted the RAM. I have a vague policy like you. I want to get many years out of the machine. I think I got 6 or 7 out of the last one, and I hope to get about the same out of this one. To that end, I was at 32. My general rule is the number's got to go up. So, what's bigger than 32, James? 64. So, had to get the uh, Pro processor upgrade to make sure that you could get the RAM upgrade. Am I lying there? Did I have to do that?
Yes.
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. But also at that point, I think it was like $200 or something to just get the biggest processor they had. So at that point,
Yes.
rounding error, sadly, when you're talking Apple dollars.
That's exactly how I saw it too. And they build the screen perfectly. It elegates. It's like as you're upgrading, you might as well click all the boxes. The first thing I saw is, well, there's two options with more GPU cores. And again, to the point that I said earlier, I would like for it to last longer, and more cores means more things down the road there. I also have a firm stance, which changed over time about 5 years ago, which my old stance for desktop
Not so
computers
firm.
was my old firm stance and has been laptops 16 gig minimum, desktop 32 gig minimum. However, my stance changed, which is when I put 64 gigs into my desktop, my Windows desktop that I made, and then it became 64 gigs minimum for desktop. I don't care what it is. That is the minimum amount of RAM that I want. I want all the RAM on the desktop. Give it to
What
me. That is my
what do you
stance.
even do with 64 gig? I know I paid the money for it, but what do you even do with
You
64
never run out of
gigabytes?
it. You never run
Oh,
out
I
of
will.
it.
I will.
No.
Because the times I run out of my 32 gigabytes, it's when I wrote a bug in a script that's been
Yeah.
running for 4 hours. And then all of a sudden the machine's just like, yeah, we're out of hard drive space. We used the entire swap. We were out of memory 3 hours ago, but you didn't
Yeah.
notice. And we're using 10 megawatts of power right now.
Yeah.
So just saying, be a better programmer.
Um,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'm a little bit nervous that my runaway scripts are going to be even more runaway with the more RAM. But we've talked about this before. The beauty of the M chips is it's a unified memory architecture, and I've been doing so much GPU programming lately.
Yeah.
I try to put half of my app on the GPU these days, and so I'm just looking forward. I didn't need the 2 or 3 or 4 extra GPU cores, but you know what? I have been doing a lot of GPU programming, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I want those cores.
And then besides that, there's not that many other options. Was just the hard drive space, which is a little bit controversial as well because the base model is 256. The base model of the M4 Pro is 512 gigs. I have a firm stance,
Mm-hmm.
which is on a laptop, This is a laptop no lower than 1 terabyte. It's inappropriate for any
Oof.
other lower amount. I'm serious. And then
Okay.
because we're app developers, we fill those app
Oh my
things are
god.
big. On a desktop, 2 terabytes. That's my minimum. Now that two
Wow.
terabytes could come in the box or expansion on it, right? So there's an option. I would say that you could at minimum have a 1 terabyte built in, which is your main operating system, and then a secondary drive. Like on my custom built machine, I have 2 terabytes, two different SSDs, right? They don't need to be the same SSD. So potentially what a lot of people have said is to save money from the Apple tax is to
Hmm.
buy a bigger external SSD. And then plug it in.
Yeah.
I don't want to use one of my ports for it. I want to plug in less things. So I went with 2 terabytes, Frank. That was my base. Is one of those things where you got 1 terabyte for an extra $200. You might as well double it, even though it's like actually a lot more. So it's very expensive. But I believe that you decided to go even bigger and bolder, Frank. Is that correct?
Yes, but allow me to explain myself by first congratulating you. Everyone should uh, take James's word here. Follow James. If you can't afford the upgrade, don't buy the computer right now. Save up for another few months or a year, and then buy the computer when you can afford that upgrade. Because I made the mistake on the last computer that I got 7ish years out of the iMac Pro. My only regret with that machine was I didn't upgrade the hard drive enough. I was constantly running out of space on it. And I did that. I bought the external Thunderbolt drive. And you know what? That external Thunderbolt drive was faster than the internal SSD. But I still kept filling the internal SSD because that's where all the apps go. And yeah, I know you can put
Yeah.
apps somewhere else, but it's weird and awkward. And I'm just not organized enough to be organized. To like put half of my files on a thing and the other half on another thing. I don't have the brain for that.
Yeah.
So I can barely find my files as it is. So um this is talk about Apple taxes. This is the Frank tax. This is the I can't stay organized. I create files. I have runaway scripts. Um, Plus, I said 7 years ago, next time you buy a computer, buy a big hard drive. For that simple reason. So I've been rocking the M1 Air for a while, which has had a 2 terabyte hard drive. Um, it was fine for the first year, but like a goldfish, I just filled it up. I just grew to the size of my pond. And it seems like no matter what size hard drive you get, you're going to fill it.
Yeah.
To wit, I decided to get the 4 terabyte. Do I keep saying gigabyte? Terabyte this time? Um, I'm sure I'll just fill it up just as quickly. This goldfish will get big. I will fill that pond, but at least it's double what I have now. So at least for a year or two, I'll probably have ample space, and then I'll have to start deleting files again.
Yeah, Apple does this thing, which is they sort of give you like a green light, yellow light, red light on their website. So they're like, oh, I have 512, an extra $200 again, which is still a lot of money. Okay, I could do that for an extra 2 terabytes. That's a yellow flag, right? You're like
It
four hundred
is.
dollars now. Granted, $600 technically, but and then you like at the 4 terabyte, and it was 1,200, but now it's 600 because again, you've already paid 600. That's my red light stop. But Frank, if you were at your 4 terabyte, the only other option is 8 terabyte, which is two full Mac Minis. It's an extra $1,200, which is an extra
Right.
$2,400 from the base price just to
Right.
go from 512 to 8 terabytes. That is you've gone through the red light that's inappropriate. So I'm glad that you stopped before you got a speeding ticket. But I understand that. You know what I mean? I think it's for a specific use case and for the fact that you're right. Like I do think on Mac specifically, I honestly think that it is a lot harder to do app management and installation management because of how the file system works. I believe it's a lot easier on Windows. I have a dev drive, Git is set up correctly. When I install games, it's all set up correctly. I know you can do all this stuff, but to me, it's a lot clearer in general. And like, I think it's made for that world where Mac does not seem to be as much because how many Mac devices have multiple hard drives in them. Like not that many, unless you're plugging one in, and then you got to manage that, and it's harder too. That's going on there. So that is our setup. You did spend more than me. I'm happy there. Let me get into some questions here, Frank. We don't get our devices, by the way, until another
Oh
month, I
golly.
think.
Yeah, at first I thought, oh, did I wait too long? And then I'm like, well, they did keep saying pre-order, and by golly, they meant pre-order. We
Yeah,
are not getting these things for a while, which is too bad. I think I'm going on vacation just as the machine arrives.
I think so here too. Yeah, it may come in earlier. I'm looking now, and I think they may have moved up the dates. Yeah,
Oh
I think
yeah,
they may have moved up the date. So we might get it a little sooner before, but mine is currently scheduled for like December 10th or something.
yeah.
I think they may have moved it up a little bit, which is good, but it is a while. It's like a month after it came out. Uh, when you click the buy button, how did you feel? What was your feeling?
Happy, relieved, because I've been wanting a new machine for a while. So I think catharsis is the correct word here, where you're just like decisions made, nothing left to
Yeah,
do, just sit and wait for machine to arrive. So
yeah,
nice feeling, I would say.
nice.
Um, in fact, it was I was proud of myself because I also had a $1,500 Mac Studio display in my bag for
Yeah,
probably the majority of the time.
yeah,
And then I remembered that my vision just keeps getting worse, and I actually don't need a 5K monitor or anything
yeah.
like that. The current monitor is going to be fine, or at least I can buy it later if I want to. So I was congratulating myself for removing the
Moving it.
monitor
That's
from the
good.
bag, and so I was like, buy this thing before you change your mind.
I think the only other thing I may buy is the new keyboard with Touch ID, and that's like a
Oh,
stupid amount of
interesting.
money, but
Okay.
only because it's like wireless and nice. But I have a nice keyboard today, but that's the only thing I might buy. Which is funny to talk about monitors. So, getting to the questions of this, I posted about this. A lot of questions. First, Klaus was asking what monitor we'll be using. He said, I've tried to find a 4K plus 120 hertz plus 27-inch plus, which can be used for both my MacBook Pro M1 and my new Mac Mini M4 Pro, but without
Nice.
any luck. My current monitor is a Dell 2720Q, which can do the job at only 60 hertz, and the new Mac Mini supports more than 60 hertz. So, Frank, what are you using or will be using for your new Mac Mini M4 Pro?
Boy, I wish I could get my old iMac Pro into target display mode. Remember how you used to be able to turn iMacs into
I
monitors? I don't
literally,
think.
I was like, what if I buy a new iMac, the what they announced, and a Mac Mini? Then I got a two in one, but then you can't use it as a monitor. So it's like, oh, come on. Anyway, so what are you using? What's
um,
going on?
well, actually, I've been using what was once a nice little monitor. What is it? An Acer or something?
Hmm,
Asus. Just your standard high res Asus 27-inch monitor. In fact, they've really come down in price. I think they're only like $350 these days. I might just buy
wow.
a second one and do a dual monitor setup or something like that. I was debating, like I said, getting a pricier, nicer monitor. I still have my eyes on the high res widescreen monitors, but those are like $1,500 also. So the truth is, the Vision Pro just came out with the Beta 2.2 upgrade, and you can do the Mac virtual display like the size of the room. It is
Wow.
gorgeous inside the Vision Pro. And so, to be honest, monitors look kind of old fashioned and ugly. The only problem is like the Vision is annoying to wear all the time.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely going to keep a monitor around, but I'm probably just going to keep a few cheap monitors around, put them on some nice arms so I can get them out of the way. And then I'm going to use the Vision Pro when I want some proper high res surround monitoring.
That makes sense. Yeah, I did not. I'm also not upgrading my monitor. I recently upgraded it a few years ago. I got this 35-inch curved ultra wide QHD
Nice.
monitor, which has HDR. It's an LG. It's from Costco. I think they have a newer model now, but I don't know the main differences. But it is a 100 hertz HDR10, a 340/40 by 1 or 1440. So it's like a two and a half
Yeah, I
K or
don't
something like that, or whatever it is.
I don't. Yeah, I haven't had a 120 hertz monitor yet. I'm sure
Yeah.
they're lovely, but I'd be honest. My contacts are usually so out of focus and everything. I'm not gonna notice the scan lines. I barely can see the pixels as it is. So
Yeah.
thank goodness for old age. Your requirements for monitors decreases.
Yeah. So I think there's that. I mean, again, my goal is like I went to one monitor and it seems to work pretty good. So that's what I got. Um, I do think it's a very large monitor, so I do actually think probably the studio monitor from Apple would like look a lot nicer and be a lot nicer. But I'm not going to spend any more money on it. I'm good right now.
I mean, what I actually want to do is three vertical monitors, but
Mm.
the Apple tax, I don't know. Have any of the reviews revealed whether the M4 Pro can power how many monitors? Is it allowed to output? Because
I
these
think
things are all
it's
software limited in a weird way.
I think it's three on the
Okay,
Pro.
can
I
get away
think
with
so.
three.
They can get away with
I
three.
might just
Yeah.
go with three cheaper monitors then, and I think that would be lovely because it's how I tend to work. I like having a monitor right in front of me with my code, but then like the app running off to the side and maybe some email and junk to the other side.
I am interested in that. Some people have said they've gotten like a little tiny monitor that they like dock like little apps
Hmm.
on or whatever off to the side and do some
I've
things. Like
done
that's
that.
fascinating. Yeah.
I got a cool monochrome green CRT that I rocked
No.
for a long time, and I just always had email on the green CRT, and it
Oh,
always
wow.
like communications were done on the green CRT. It always just felt very old fashioned. So, if you're ever
Yeah.
at like a swap meet or something, keep your eye out for a cool early '80s green CRT that you
I
could use
like
that
that.
for.
I like that. All right, let's see what else we got. So Steve said bought the same one, but only 48 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte
Nice
storage, so not bad. But
beauty.
I still think time to go. Billy says Mac
It's gonna be a
Minis.
good machine. Come
It's
on.
gonna be a good machine. Yeah, it's funny. Billy says Mac Minis are definitely more bang for the buck, and I said yeah, but it's still expensive when you spec it out. So here's a good question. Sepahur asks, James, your configuration goes up to a whopping $2,800, which is correct. Don't you think that for that point, Mac Mini becomes pointless? You might as well get a MacBook Pro or something
Hmm.
else. How do you respond, Frank?
I almost agree. That's the problem. I have this internal debate all the time.
Hmm.
But I've been having a lot of trouble with my current M1 laptop. Praise be the M1 Air laptop, but it does drive me a little bit nuts because it is a laptop and it does act funny sometimes, open and close when you switch around and that kind of stuff. And I was just getting a little bit frustrated with the laptopiness of laptops sometimes. Um, for instance, it does weird things like it won't even power up my USB keyboard until it has passed certain stages of the boot because it knows it doesn't need to. But that means I can't use the USB keyboard because I have to open the laptop and I have to use their internal keyboard because they boot that one up immediately. It's the laptopiness. I don't want the laptopiness. I want
Yeah.
a desktop. It does sound weird though, because what you can get the max chips on the laptops. So if you want all the power, you do have to go over there. But I just really didn't want a laptop that simple.
Yeah, I kind of feel similar. One, I already have a laptop, so that is one of the reasons. Now, granted, if I didn't have a laptop, okay,
Yeah.
at all, then
Hmm.
obviously it's a different
Different story.
scenario, right? If you're like, I'm only getting one machine, this is my main machine forever, then yeah, MacBook Pro is probably the way to go, right? If you want to travel with it. If you're like, I'm
Hmm.
doing all my coding at home, I still think a dedicated desktop's superior, in my opinion, for all the things you said. One, there are a lot more ports on here. There is a lot more advanced ports that are going on. I think additionally, the thing with um, the thing with laptops is the dock situation. It's
Yeah.
bigger, it's under there. You have to figure out the dock. It takes up a lot of room. You have to buy additional dongles and things. Like we will get into the dongle situation that we're going to have to inevitably buy because I don't have not every device I have is USB C or
Right.
Thunderbolt.
Right.
But there's that. And I actually did this. I said yes and no. This is my response. I said, I think there's a lot of advantages to a dedicated desktop, which we've kind of outlined, but also when it comes to speccing it out. The MacBook Pro, again, I have hard, two hard requirements, Frank. 64
Okay.
gigs of RAM, 2
Okay.
terabytes. That's my thing. For
Got to
the
get it.
MacBook Pro, you cannot get 64 gigs unless you get the M4 Max, which
Ooh.
it's better than the M4 Pro. It's
Yeah.
Max. It's better than Pro.
Max. Yeah.
But when you are at that price, you're at $4,300,
Oh.
$1,500
Ooh, that one goes up
more.
fast.
Oh, yes. So,
I mean, they're
you know,
gorgeous chips. I only saw a couple reviews, but wow, they are doing
yeah.
very well in the reviews.
So to me, it's like, it's very different if you're like, I am only going to buy one machine ever. But even that said, an extra $1,500, that's a MacBook Air. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is you could buy the machine we have and you could buy a MacBook Air for the same price. Depends what you
that sounds
want.
very reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lucky we have the laptops. We're all set to go. Like you said, if this is your first big main machine, then yeah, definitely maybe go for that laptop. I almost look at it like I just want to get my cables managed properly. I think the other problem I have with laptops, you said the dongles. Well, we're still going to have dongles because that's the
Yeah.
USB-C world. But with a desktop computer, you can like nail down all your wires, put a nail right through them, and just like
Yeah.
get everything organized. Whereas with a laptop, you always feel like it needs to be able to detach from the desk and be ready to
Yeah.
go. Um, that's the opposite of what I want right now. I want to like build a tiny little box and box technology, get this thing all hidden away, get the cables all managed, get the cables off my desktop, and
Yeah.
just get it tidied up. And I don't want to make that so I have to like plug in and unplug a laptop to make all that happen.
Yeah.
Um, that's again more of a me thing, my inability to organize around a laptop, but I'm sure other people have that difficulty too.
Yeah. The worst part, I always find my MacBook and my Surface laptop just sitting there, not charging and not being charged at all, and like not fully asleep because I'm like, oh, I gotta like plug a thing in. You know what I mean? Like, oh, one
Yeah.
more thing. Or you're buying another dock, you're buying a thing. Like additional things add up as well. Okay, a few other questions here. Well, not even questions. So a few things here. Joshua says, "Love that because I posted on LinkedIn. I said, this is sitting beside my Surface laptop, my Project Volterra, which is the Windows Dev Kit from last year, and then also my MacBook Air." He said, "Yeah, I love you mentioned Project Volterra. Not a lot of tons of Windows ARM content down there." I was like, "I love Windows ARM machines. My
Yeah.
Volterra is my daily driver. I use it every single day for 10 hours a day at work, every single day, and I love it."
I still want to get
Um,
one too. I need to
yeah,
find a nice cheap one.
I bet you can. I bet there's used ones out there. Yeah, Michael says, "I missed out on the Project Volterra. Any recommendations for similar devices?" And I said, I was looking forward to the Qualcomm one, but I would say anything in the air, if you're looking for something similar to what we're buying, it would be something in that Snapdragon X Elite range because they're super rad. And a lot of people did ask, like, hey, what about this machine, but for Windows?
Hmm.
And, I took a look out there really quick. And obviously, I said, I'm a big custom build machine. So if I had the same amount of money, I would build a super
Okay.
awesome Windows machine. You know what I
So you're
mean? Like
talking
that's
like
what I
an
would do.
Intel machine, sure. You can build a
Uh
beautiful Intel
oh, you can.
machine. Or
I
are
think
you
you
looking
can.
for an ARM machine?
I think you can buy the ARM chips now from like
Oh, is
AMD
that
and
right?
stuff. I
Wow,
think
I need to
so.
up my game. I
Yeah,
have
I'm pretty
never
sure.
built an ARM PC.
Yeah,
I am intrigued, sir. I
yeah,
want to try that out.
I'm pretty sure. And like there is like from Microsoft they service a laptop studio again, but it's a laptop, but with like really
Yeah.
the high end specs, kind of like a MacBook Pro. If you were going down that range, like that could be an option. Then I did look around, like surprisingly, like the Alienware has like a really, really powerful machine out there, the R16S. And then also a few people said in that like, yeah, the X Elites are like amazing. The Laptop Studio are amazing. Some other people said there's the Asus ROG machines, which are super high spec. So that's the thing on Windows, right? Like there's like a bajillion options, right? Like there's there's so many options that are publicly available out there as well. But again, if I had $2,700, I would pick out like I would spend a lot of time out there. And I think like Damian Edwards, like I think he tweets often like the different machine builds that he's doing. And
Hmm.
there's plenty of them out there. Like you can go and like people are giving out like all the different things. So you could really customize it to exactly your use case. And that's the beauty of Windows, right? So, but you're not getting this tiny itty bitty little box at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? Which is half the reason I'm buying it.
And they're still not super cheap. If you want to put a very powerful GPU in, you're still going
Oh
to
yeah.
spend $1,000 to $2,000 for a high
Yeah.
end GPU, a
A
modern high end
CPU's eight,
GPU.
$900 for the high super
Yeah.
high end ones. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. You got to.
Inflation.
They've always been expensive.
We call that
Um,
the GPU tax. Yeah.
GPU tax. Well, so this was funny because getting to that exact point, the first thing I posted and you and I discussed was how do you run Windows on Mac OS with Apple Silicon? What's the best way? Because that's what I'm going to want to do immediately. Not like full
Yeah.
time necessarily, but I want to be able to boot in to do certain things, especially with Visual Studio and other Windows development that I'm doing. I've used Parallels in the past. I used VMware in the past, and I was like, but it's been a while, right? I on
Yeah.
my MacBook Air, I haven't run anything on it because I have my laptop here. But since if this is my sole desktop besides my work desktop, then I want the ability to get into
Yeah.
it and out of it.
I
Do
think,
you have thoughts in 2024? Almost going into 2025
well,
here?
honestly, my 2024 thoughts are very far behind because I still live the VMware Fusion
Hmm.
life for when it comes to Windows development.
Yeah.
It's come a really long way. It's always been good, but when it comes to development, Visual Studio runs great. Everything runs great. So I've never really had an issue there. Always crank it up and give it lots of CPUs to work with, give it lots of RAM to work with, give it lots of hard drive to work with. But you live in the Windows world a lot more than I do, so your standards might be a little bit higher. There's a little bit of flaky things. If you want to play games on it, I don't know. I haven't tried too many games in it. I know DirectX works, but which versions of DirectX and all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Um, so I'm curious to see what you end up doing because I don't have too many recommendations other than virtualization does definitely work fine.
Yeah.
So you always have that. I would just start there and then exploring other options.
Yeah, I think that what it comes down to, because there was the old boot camp back in the day type of stuff, right? Which was like glorious to get in and out of. But there is, so pretty much just what people said. And I think it comes down to the use case for it. So everyone basically said VMware, great. Parallels, I think Parallels is like certified Windows 11, ARM
Okay.
type of stuff from Microsoft. From like I was looking on their website, but I believe now Parallels is a subscription service, like a yearly subscription, which doesn't interest
Oof.
me very much. But it is what it is. VMware Fusion is free, so that's kind of cool. There's another app called UTM. I don't know if you've heard of this, but this has images for like all the different Linux distros and all the different
Yeah.
ARM distros and things. And apparently, people said it's come a long way and it's available on the App Store. So that's kind of cool. It's like $10. I don't know if you used
Well,
UTM at all.
one neat thing Apple did was they made virtualization in macOS very simple.
Yeah.
You can go download their virtualization example and spin up your own virtual machine app, to execute your own images in a full sandbox environment all by yourself. I think about it all the time. Like, should my app just be running another app in a sandbox in a virtual
Yeah.
machine and then it could never crash? It would be awesome. Anyway, um, and so I think there's just been basically an explosion of these kinds of apps on Mac because Apple made it very easy. And
Yeah.
so good to see. And the Linux options are, yeah, easy. You can get a
Yeah.
million Linuxes up, no problem.
It seems like people are overwhelmingly parallels. And the cool thing about parallels is obviously that it can be parallel, like lives inside. It's not like not even a window you go into. Like it'll pretend like the
Yeah.
windows, like it's
Fusion
everything's
does that
running
too.
locally.
It's
Oh, does it?
fused.
Oh,
It
it's
fuses
fused.
the operating systems
I see.
together.
It's been a while
They
since
all,
I.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only a Fusion person because I've been a Fusion person for
Mhm.
probably decades now.
For a
So
while.
I
Yeah.
just know the software inside and out.
Yeah, I think that one thing that intrigued me as well was my colleague Mark, who I've worked with for a long time, Mark Smith, like said that he uses Parallels often, but also DevBox and Windows 365 in the cloud. So just like you just have a
Oh
cloud
yeah.
computer that you just boom into. Well, that's fascinating.
That's cool. That's
Yeah,
a
I was
fun
like, oh,
idea.
smart. Yeah,
You could probably get some Azure credits knowing your boss. I bet you could get a little cloud machine. I love that.
yeah,
Yeah, cloud dev machines. We should do a show on cloud dev
yeah.
boxes.
I've been using recently a lot of DevBox for
Hmm.
like really intense applications that we've been the team has been building, like the eShop sample, right? And it's like crazy
Yeah.
amount of services and things, and like it's like doesn't even like 28 containers doesn't even skip a beat, right? It's like so
So are we
great.
fools? Should we have just bought like a Chrome book and should we have just been VMing into a cloud machine?
At some point, that maybe in the next machine is the future, right? And it doesn't, you just need whatever to run the OS, and you're just actually just booting into the cloud machine. It could be. I don't know. I'm
Not
I
yet.
use cases for both. I would say there is something special about spinning up and deleting dev boxes, right? Like at
Yeah.
will, just like, oh, I'm just gonna have this one or that one, or like there was a cool presentation I saw about like how some people like use it, and they're like, oh yeah, I have like 4 different dev boxes in the cloud, and they're all just like either on different projects or different branches. So it's like if I'm working
Hmm.
on multiple features or trying to do different bugs, I'm just switching between them. So like I might like have like running tests, and the tests take like 10 minutes to run. So like why wait for 10 minutes? I'll just go switch to the other dev box and start
That's
coding
fun.
again. And I was like, wow. I was like, that's I was like, I never stop coding, I guess. But yeah, I thought about that as well. I think I will try out Parallels and VMware, or maybe just VMware Fusion because it's free, like you said. And you're running it
Well,
on your
it's
M1.
not free. I don't know. Maybe there's a free version. I pay for it,
Hmm.
but it's just you pay per version, and as long as Apple doesn't break anything major,
No,
the
in
current
May they
version
just
works.
made it free for personal
Now
use.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, it's called Fusion Pro. It's for free. It's new. It just happened
I'm
like not that long
scared.
ago.
I'm scared that it's for free. Okay, we'll see what happens in the future. I
And
don't
it says
trust
for
things when they go free.
personal use. I don't know. Does that count for us? Personal. I don't know. Because they discontinued Workstation Player and Fusion Player.
Well, yeah, I never paid for a workstation, and I never paid for player.
I think that I think those are always free. Anyways, we gotta try around. So if people have recommendations right into the show, there's that. Besides that, we won't be able to give a hands-on impression for like a
No,
month and a half. So
no, it'll be a jolly holiday season.
yeah,
Just when the days are getting long, a shiny little gray box will show up at our doors.
yeah.
It'll be wonderful.
I'm trying to get prepared because I obviously have like the HDMI set up. I got the Ethernet all good to go, all routed. Now there are 5 ports, 3 Thunderbolt 5s on the back, 2 USB-C on the front, and a headphone jack, of course. I'm trying to prepare myself for like the world which I live in today, which is I'm plugging in a bunch of different things. I got, camera, microphone, other accessories. I really don't. I guess do I just buy? I wish that there was like a cool dock or something that was like organized. Like I don't want things to be visible and dangly. You know what I
I'm gonna
mean?
try to find one. I'll let you know.
Okay, let me
I
know.
and Yeah. So you did not buy the $150 Thunderbolt cable, just to be clear.
No, I did not. No,
Okay.
I did not. No, no, I
No,
did
I
not.
did
No,
not
there's a
either. But I'm going to
yeah.
try to find a nice Thunderbolt dock
Okay,
with the explicit plan of hiding cables and getting everything organized. So
yes.
we'll report back on the best
Okay.
dongle technology I can find.
Yeah, because in the old Mac Minis, there was this like a Santexi dock that you would just like set it on top of, and it would like it was like looked very integrated, which is very cool. No one's come up with anything like that yet, but I would also be a little bit fearful because of that's where all the airflow is going, obviously. So yeah,
Yeah. We're,
let me
we're,
know what
we're
you
going to keep
find.
the bottom cool
I
so it can
I
run
have
all the AIs and use all that
yeah.
RAM.
I have a few like standard dongles, like just little like USB C to like split it into different things for like laptops that can be powered or not powered. The nice thing is you probably don't need them to be powered because you don't need pass through power, right? Like as well.
No, you basically break everything up into what are your low speed USB-A things that require power. So you'll
Yeah.
get just a nice USB-A hub for that. And then try to put everything else onto USB-C and
USB
Thunderbolt.
C. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be my jam. Yeah, exactly. It's like I don't know if I don't know if my
Welcome to the future, boys.
I don't know if my
Upgrade
keyboard
our
needs
cables with our computers here.
I don't know if my keyboard needs a Thunderbolt 5 port or not. It's gonna really send those
I
keystrokes real quick.
I'm honestly worried about my keyboard. It uses some firmware that macOS hates, just hates. What I was complaining about earlier about how it refuses to spin up the keyboard early in the boot process, it's because it
Oh
hates the
yeah.
driver.
Ugh,
And I don't know how to make that better, but I'm not buying a new keyboard, so we'll just see. We'll just hope the
fingers
USB-C
crossed.
gets along with this keyboard.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and then I'm not buying a Magic Mouse. That's for sure. I have the Logitech MX4, what 2 or whatever, and it's amazing. It's like one of the best mice I've ever purchased. So, but I
I
think
have
I'll
an
buy the
old
new
Magic
keyboard.
Mouse if you want one. I'll mail it
No,
to you.
no, no, it's all good. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week's Merge Conflict. Frank, thanks for entertaining this. Thanks for all your questions and comments on LinkedIn. I appreciate it. That's usually where I'm hanging out, where you can find me. Frank's everywhere on the internet still. All the links are in the show notes. But I guess we'll see you next week for .NET 9 goodness. I'm real excited. Definitely tune in, .NETConf.net. And of course, follow the podcast, share it with friends, and let us know if you got a Mac Mini or other Mac devices right into the show. Most likely, best place to do it is over on youtube.com/@ Merge Conflict FM. Let's go for this week's podcast. Until next week, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.